Hi everyone, we are back. I wanted to go ahead and follow the last video. If you're in the future, you probably don't know what I'm talking about, but for those who just watched our video, it was the follow-up on the wrapping hoops video. So we decided to go ahead and tackle the denim jacket today. We've tried in the past. We actually put one together about a month and a half ago, and we did it outside just because we thought the setup would be nicer, but woo, it was hot. And so the video doesn't look very graceful with shiny skin and just sweating and putting on a jacket. It was 105. I thought it was 92 that day. I thought, man, why is it so hot? Well, it was, I had read the temperature wrong, or I heard the wrong temperature. So anyway, back to the topic. We are going to talk about this denim jacket that you've seen pictures of. Can you see the whole thing? Okay. And this was just something I did. I just made it up as I went. So when you embellish a denim jacket, you know, don't feel restricted by what I did or someone else did. Just go with what looks good to you, and you can use this for guidelines and ideas, of course, and you can certainly do it just like this, but feel free to do what you want. Whatever you end up doing will be beautiful. I know it will be. So this is just a guideline. So next jacket, I'll think of something different and do something totally, you know, maybe not even close to what this is. So that's the fun of it. You do something different every time, and each person does something different from the other person. So don't be afraid. Just start on it, and it will come to you. All right, so I'm going to show you what I stitched on this jacket so that you can at least know that if you do want to copy this one. So this is the Elegance linen moth that I put on the sleeve here. This jacket had cuffs, and the cuffs were kind of like the closure on the bottom of the band. Here, let me see if I can do this. Okay, the band right here, that's what the cuffs look like. I cut them off because I didn't want to bother with them. So when you stitch the sleeve, you'll have to decide what you want to do. I didn't want to have to take off a cuff and open the sleeve because there's no way to embroider the sleeve without opening the underarm seam. Now this one has a couple of seams that composes the sleeve here, but this is the one that goes under the arm. That's the one I opened. It also had a little, what do you call that placket on the opposite side of where or actually this was part of the cuff, so the placket and then the button closure. So what I did was I could have left the placket open, but because I was adding a ruffle, I didn't want this to flap open with the ruffle attached. So I just went ahead and tacked it closed with a hand needle. I just slip stitched it and shut it off. So, but before I did any of that, I had to open the sleeve so I could work with it a little better. So I opened it up, not all the way, and because this is top stitched, this is a felted seam, and for those of you who don't sew, a felted seam is it's a little different from a regular seam. A regular seam, you just put the two fabrics together and stitch them closed. A felted seam is more like folded over itself in a kind of complex way and then stitched together from the top. So when you open it, there is no two edges, raw edges together that are stitched closed. So it makes it a little tricky to close it when you go to close it again. So all I did was open it up, and then when I was done embroidering, I closed it up, but I used a regular, well, no, what did I do? It's been a while. Let me take a look. Pardon me. While I take a look at this. All right, so instead of, and you can make this up as you go too, because every jacket's gonna look different. It's gonna be put together differently. So what I did was I met up the flat, I undid the seam a little bit farther and met the flat wrong sides together. And I just stitched it closed in a regular way. And then see the seam is actually, I don't know if you can see all this, and you may not even need to know all this, but point is, you don't have to put it back together the way the factory had it. As long as it looks good on the outside and it's gonna stay closed and not fall apart, you're good. I put them together the way a normal seam goes together, and then I just kind of met it up with the felted, and I couldn't stitch all the way through to the factory stitching on the sewing machine because I couldn't get it flat because the seam is folded over itself and stitched down. So I just got as close as I could, and then with a hand needle I just finished it off so I wouldn't have a hole in my sleeve. And that's how I finished off the underarm. So that's after you've done the embroidery and after you've stitched on the lace. So that's the last thing you do. So you will have to open the sleeve up and do all your embroidery. So determine how much you want to do. Maybe you don't want to mess with the sleeves and you just want to embellish the jacket itself. You know, you can do whatever, however you want it to. And since I cut off the cuff, I didn't have to deal with putting that back together or anything. And what I did was I gathered up some lace, and here's the lace that I used for this. This is some lace I picked up at the Houston Quilt Show about 2 or 3 years ago. And this guy's name, I think he has a company called Luke's Laces, L-U-C''S. And he's out of the Netherlands. And he's got these beautiful laces. And so you should be able to come up with a name. I don't remember the actual, if the Luke's Laces is the name of the website, but I know Google will turn something up for you if you do a search. And all I did was I gathered it. I actually used my gathering foot on my sewing machine. But you can do this with 2 rows of stitching and gather up your lace as tight as you want it or as loose as you want it. And then what I did was I determined how much I wanted of the lace I wanted to stick out from under the hem. So, and then added that much more. So when I hemmed this, I finished it on the serger and then just turned it under. It's about 1 inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch. And then I hand stitched my lace because I didn't want stitching on the outside. So I hand stitched my lace, and the easier way to do this is to have the sleeve inside out and just put the lace around where you're gonna attach it, pin it, and then just with whip stitching by hand, it doesn't take more than a few minutes to attach your lace. So that's all you did. That's all I did is just pin it and then just maybe a little back stitch is what I did by hand. You can do it on the sewing machine, however you want to do it. If you have a free arm machine, this should go around the machine. Of course, this is a size small, so everything was kind of really narrow. So if it's a different style jacket, it might have roomier sleeves. And so when you pick out a jacket, keep that in mind, you know, how much you want to mess with the seams that are there. This is a butterfly, the back of it, with tearaway stabilizer. Oh no, actually, okay, back up. This has to be floated because I can't hoop a sleeve this small. So I actually, when I float, I use Vilene water-soluble stabilizer, and I use the regular kind for something like this. And I hoop it like I'm hooping fabric. And just make sure it's taut and everything, and it's gonna stay in place. And then I lightly spray it with embroidery adhesive. If you want, you can use the tacky Vilene. That would work fantastic too. and so you don't have to spray it, it's already tacky. So you stretch that and make it really drum taut, put your hoops together, and then lay your project down. Now, I always either baste or pin, depending on the project. This one probably needs to be basted because denim is a little bit tricky. It's kind of stretchy. It starts doing funky things when it starts to stitch. So I always advocate to press and starch until your fabric is nice and stiff. Then when you lay your project down, you either baste it or pin it so that it stays put in your hoop. Something like a jacket like this, it's going to have a lot of drag on your hoop. So you don't want to just lay it there and hope for the best. You have got to pin it or baste it. And in this case, it's better to baste it. So you stitch it out, you remove it from the hoop, you cut away the excess. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. When you lay your project down and get ready to stitch it, for this fabric, I slide a piece of tearaway under the hoop before I start the machine, and that's the extra stabilizer. So now when I do that